And welcome back to Fouch and Friends. These are interviews with your favorite gospel music artist. This episode features a conversation with comedian, singer, songwriter Mark Lowry. If it's your first time, please subscribe. You guys are familiar with Mark, his comedy, his music, his songwriting, and his time with the Gaither Vocal Band. We had a great conversation, and I know you guys are going to love this time with Mark. Mark, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well. Got a busy day. It's Tuesday, day 7,864 of the stay-at-home order. Feels that way, doesn't it?
Well, I have really enjoyed this. I mean, personally, my harem has kept me fed. I've got these four female friends that are just they're lifelong friends. They live near me. They've been cooking at my house, allowing me to eat with them. And that's the only people I've seen in 45 days. Um, and I've been checking in, at 10 a.m. every morning with my people on YouTube and Facebook and just singing hymns a cappella because I can't play anything. And it's just, I tell you what it's done. One thing, it's made my YouTube channel explode.
Yeah.
I mean, people, because what they'll do, they'll come watch that maybe, and then they'll watch another video or two. And I love that. So it's reaching more people. I love that you can, I've been screaming this for over a year, way before COVID. You can reach a lot more people right here.
Yeah.
Through that little camera than you can on the road. And since I'm getting older, that makes it even more wonderful, that I can still reach people and probably reach more people and don't even have to leave the house.
Right. That's right. It makes it easier on your body and your
Oh, yes.
now it does take one thing that folks don't realize that are watching is the time it takes for content creators like myself and you just how much time and effort goes into the recording, the thought, because you don't just want to jump on without some kind of a plan of what you might want to talk about, what you might
Yeah,
see.
kind of do sometimes. If you have to wait till you have a plan, you'll never go. At least I get it. What I do in the morning, it does force me to take a shower during a pandemic because the temptation is to never wear long pants again.
Yeah.
Short. I've got shorts on right now. Of course, I'm in Texas where it's very warm, but it makes me get in the shower, shave. It makes me know that I'm going to meet 1,800 people in a few minutes right through my computer screen,
Mm-hmm.
and I pray. It forces me to pray. No, I'm kidding. I always meet the Lord better in the shower than anywhere else. Anyway, I just don't know why that is. It's sort of like my prayer closet, and I just start thinking about what we might sing and what the Lord, if He has anything. Because I know there are 1,800 people or so. It's been averaging that are going to be watching, and they're His kids.
Yeah.
And He might have a message for me to tell him, like
Yeah.
He's, namely that how crazy He is about them. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
God is out of His ever loving mind in love with us, even though it may not feel like it at times.
Hmm. That's right. And I actually was seeing a one of your dinner conversations. There was I don't remember the name of the individuals that were speaking that you guys were talking with, but it was like a little promo for one of your upcoming ones, I believe. And you
Mhm.
guys were just talking about, we can't trying to figure out how to phrase this correctly. It was a lady just talking about she had spent her life trying to basically make God happy with everything that she did, and how it's like God loves you and is crazy about you and doesn't expect perfection because we're imperfect beings.
Right. I mean, I was talking this morning on my 10 a.m. Mark Lowry live program about Jonah. And that's those four chapters. It's only four chapters. Anybody can go read four chapters. You need to go get the Message Bible and read it in that translation. Just even if you never pick up the Message Bible again, if you're prejudiced against it, I love it personally. But God tells Jonah, go to Nineveh and tell those people I love them and to repent and all. Well, he doesn't like the Ninevites. They are the N-word of his day. They had been harassing Israel forever, and he hated them. He didn't want God to save them. He wanted God to kill them. And so he goes through the whole whale incident, and finally goes and he screams, "Repent!" Well, 120,000 of them do. And
Yeah.
instead of putting it in this brochure, like he should have, like any good evangelist would, 120,000 saved in Nineveh. No, he goes to God and attempts to chew God out.
Mm.
And it is the most beautiful thing when you really read the words of Jonah, when he starts saying, "I knew you were too good to be true. I knew you were full of kindness and grace and mercy, and you would forgive them." I mean, he's mad about it. Everything I love about God, he's mad about.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then he spins and on his heel and walks out of the presence of God. Just talk to you no more. Go sits under a tree. I mean, and God doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
Now, y'all, see, that's the that's the Jesus I know. He's
Yeah.
not out to get you. In fact, he kind of
Right.
had fun with him. He had fun with Jonah. I think he said, "Come here, angel, shall watch this." And he had a seed grow up, in a tree shaded Jonah, and then he said, "Hey, watch this." Then he kills the kills the tree, and Jonah's all ticked off. I don't know what God was doing there, but he was having a little fun, I think. But I
Yeah.
just love because it was the most beautiful picture of a healthy father with his son.
Yeah.
The son's mad. Some of you may be mad going through this corona thing. You know what? Go ahead and tell him he's your father. He can handle it. He's had bigger people than you mad at him.
Mm. Yeah. Wow.
And has it ever occurred to you? Nothing ever occurs to God. He knows you're mad at him, so tell him and discuss it.
Yeah.
And I bet you
That's
the
good.
good, he'll remind you of all the times he's brought you through, and then you'll be full of joy, and you'll go from chewing him out to praising him, I think.
Well,
But
and you're doing this every day at 10 o'clock. And so folks can tune in on your YouTube channel or your Facebook page and can get good stuff like that right there just about every day, right?
well, I don't know. I just was thinking about that today. But I do love go read those 4 chapters. I mean, and when you get to where Jonah is chewing God out, I promise you, you will weep
Yeah.
because it's everything you love about God.
Yeah. That's good.
It's
Hey,
amazing.
Mark, I joined you probably a month ago or so on your Mondays with Mark. We had a
Mhm.
great conversation and it was a lot of fun. But we got on a little bit of Southern gospel history while we were chatting that day. And so it got me to thinking when you and I were talking about doing this little conversation, this interview, who would be your all-time favorite dream male quartet? Who would be in that group?
Wow. Ah, well, for fun. See, you're on stage for only about, well, it's a Gaither concert, about 10 hours. No, I tell everybody you got to shave at intermission when Gaither's in charge. But
That's true.
no, it's you're on stage for like what, 3 hours a night, and you're on the bus for 20. What is it?
Yeah.
21 more hours. You got to be with the people more than you sing with them. So it's very important to like them. So J.D. Sumner would be a great bass if he were alive. You want living or dead?
Yep. If you're putting
For
together a
just
dream
pure,
quartet.
for just pure fun, I'd have 2 basses, George and J.D.
Oh,
Not for sound, but just for fun, because that would be a right. But now for sound, it would be the very first Gaither Vocal Band I ever sang in. Well, not the first; it was the second, which was Terry Franklin, Bill Gaither, Michael English, and me. That was my favorite quartet. But I'm not a big fan of quartets. I like trios. I was raised on the Rambos. The Rambos or the
mm,
Goodmans. That's a quartet, but there was a woman in there to cut that mud wall. Because to me, quartet sort of sounded like a mud wall. It's all men, all testosterone. You need a woman to cut that sound up a little bit. And Dottie and Reba did it. And Vestal, oh my Lord, there's never been a sound like that sound of
Yeah.
the Happy Goodman family. But male quartets can all sound alike if they're not careful.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Now, and you've sang with some great guys over the years, and so I wanted to throw that one out at you just as a. I was always curious, just like who would you put together in your. Now, what was interesting to me about that is that you said if you were just doing something fun, you'd put two basses in there. Now, what would be just
No,
those personalities?
it isn't about the bass. It's about who they were. JD,
Yeah.
George. I'd love to be with Vestal. Oh, I'd love to have all them on the same bus at the same time,
Oh yeah.
you know, just
Yeah.
for fun, because the stories would be so great,
Yeah.
and the humor and the fun. I remember one of the first Gaither homecomings when we were sitting in the semicircle at the, how Bill would do it in the studio, and I was on one end of the room and JD and George were on the other end, and I saw JD lean up. This was early. This is probably 80. No, this would be around 90, 91 when we were just started the videos. He leaned up and whispered something in George Younce's ear, and George laughed so hard I thought he was going to cough up a lung. And that's when I decided I'm going to know J.D. Sumner. I've decided I'm going to know him. And the last 5 years, so I heard all his stories. I wish I'd been lived closer to George so I could have known him better. But JD and I lived in the same town in Nashville,
Wow.
so I had a chance to get to know him.
That is, and you hear so many people that actually did personally know him talk about the stories he had and everything. It would be awesome. Now, to have a book have you read his book that has been put out with him?
I
Is
didn't
that
know
where
he
he
had a
shares a bunch
book.
of his stories?
I didn't know he had a book.
Well, we need to make sure we check into that because that might be where a lot of those stories are. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I didn't know he had a book, but some of the stories I heard could never again be repeated.
I've heard he was that personality type.
I will take some of those to the grave with me. But
Hey,
but George Hare, who can really remember all the stories because I really can't remember them that well. But George Hare.
I don't.
You don't. You need to know George Hare. You know Michael Sykes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, his best friend is George Hare, and George is the countryest thing I have ever talked to in my life, and a great bass player and an engineer, he's produced records and stuff. But anyway, he'd be a good guest to have on. He's funny, he's country, but he could remember every JD story. He reminds me of them all the time, and because I forget them.
What are you going to do as soon as those stay-at-home orders are lifted? What's the first thing you're going to run out there and do?
My life probably won't change that much because I'd already kind of quasi retired, but then the stock market did a belly flop, so I'm going back to work. And no, when this is over, I'll do concerts and stuff probably when we
Yeah,
can have a crowd again.
yeah,
But not until then, I'll be doing this, every morning
yeah.
at 10, until I get bored with it, which is
Right.
why I do everything. Once I'm bored with it, I'm on to the next thing.
What's your favorite joke that you've ever told on stage? Or your favorite gotcha moment?
It was an idea, a routine about how it's I don't really tell jokes except for things like Bill's hair.
Yeah.
The one that I loved the most was that last wig he had was made out of cat hair. Every time he scratched his head, his rear went up. That's a big one from for years. We told that one. But as far as stories, I was telling this thing about how God likes us. And my third grade teacher, Mrs. Holland, who is still alive, told me when I was in the third grade that God must like me very much because he gave me all that energy.
Hmm.
Well, so I grew up thinking God liked me, you know, and there's a big difference between loving somebody and liking them.
Yeah.
A lot of people I love, I don't like. Everybody, I go through Thanksgiving and Christmas too. Every family tree has at least one squirrel in it.
That's
You know,
right.
that person that you will cry at their funeral, but you don't want to go on vacation with them. That's who I'm talking about. And if nobody popped into your brain, you're it. That's one of my
That
favorites. But
that's a
even
good one.
then I go on to say, but even if you are it, God's crazy about you. And that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Everybody else may hate you, but God thinks you're the tops.
That's awesome. You've had some great just one-liners and stuff on the Gaither Homecoming concerts and the Gaither Vocal Band stuff over the years, where all those gotchas on Bill and everything. Those were always great to see on video.
And one, the truth is, he taught me how to do that because I'd never been on stage with anyone else in my entire life. I mean, until I joined the vocal band, I was a solo act. I
Hmm.
would sing and tell stories, sing, talk, sing, talk. That's what I did, and that's what I still do. And then I never even crossed my mind to want to audition for the vocal band. Never had any dream. I mean, I didn't even care about them. I never bought any of their records. I love the trio. I love Bill, Gloria, and Danny, and then Gary McSpadden. I love that because, like I say, I wasn't a Quartet fan, but I became one when I joined the group because baritone. I thought that was the stepchild of parts because it moved around so much. It doesn't follow the lead like the tenor does. And but now I love it. It's my favorite part because it doesn't do what's normal. It does fill the holes. It does, oh, who's that? Oh, why is that on? That shouldn't be on. And so I love the baritone now. So I'm thankful. And when I in 1988 when I joined the Gaither Vocal Band, um, I had just signed a solo deal with Word Records, and that was really my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal was to be on Word Records as a solo act. And so I made it, and I was there, But I was thinking, I told Bill, I said, I don't know if I can be a part of your group and continue the solo thing. Can you do both? He said, well, I've always done many things. And I thought, well, then I will do. And just from him saying that one thing, I've always done more than one thing
Yeah.
I thought you could only do one career. I didn't know
Right.
you could do two. And
Yeah.
what a great life for the attention deficit disordered you, child that I was, because I'd have vocal band some and I'd have solo some. When I get bored with this, I can go do this. So it was
Yeah.
a wonderful journey I had.
What's coming up with the dinner conversations?
Andrew is kind of in charge of that. He gets the guests and he figures out and he leads the way. And it's more structured. You talk about planned
Yeah.
and it's because he's classy. And I'm more like turn on the camera and let's go and see what happens. That's
Make it
that's
up as you
because
go
then I don't
along.
ever have to think about it again. I don't
Yeah.
want to spend a whole that's the reason I don't like rehearsing because it just you're worn out of the song before you get to present it, but you have to rehearse, and we did rehearse back in the day, but not a lot. We didn't rehearse a lot.
And not anymore for you because you're retired now and
Well, I'm
don't have to
retired
worry
from
about all that.
yeah, I'm retired from touring. I'm not retired from the gospel or retired from singing or retired from doing one-offs here and there
Yeah.
maybe, which I'm already booked for several of those, many of those, but they've
Right.
had to postpone them. So it's like the year I took off last year, I should have waited and done it this year, and it would have been my timing was a year off,
If
but
you
it
had known,
also it prepared me really for what we're going through now
that's right.
because I already had the lights, the cameras. I was already doing Mondays with Mark, and so I was already had my toe in the water because I wouldn't if now it'd be too late. I'm not going to go outside and buy nothing. I'm not leaving the house. So I'd
Hmm.
have. Fortunately, I could go. Of course, I ordered all this off the internet anyway. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm glad I already had it set up, ready to go.
Yeah.
It's like the Lord really prepared me
That's
and I'm
awesome.
happy that he's still able to use me a little.
Yeah. For sure. And God will use us as long as we're willing to be used and give him our availability for him to
Yeah.
do something
You don't
with.
you don't get too old for God because he's older still.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Mark, you're doing a great job with the interviews, with the live streaming. Folks are enjoying it, loving it. I've watched many of them. And guys, you can, if you're watching this and for some stretch of the imagination, you've not watched Mondays with Mark or any of his live videos, you can just go to YouTube, search for Mark Lowry, Facebook, Mark Lowry. And what's your website, Mark?
MarkLowry.com.
There you go. Guys, check it out. Every day, 10 a.m. right now, he's doing the Facebook
Central.
Live
Yeah.
and YouTube Live as well. And then Mondays with Mark, he's promoting that. It's a great follow, great way to meet artists just like this series is. Mark, thanks for your time today, man. I appreciate it so
Man,
much.
I love what you're doing too, Matt. I'm so thrilled that you've stepped out and going live and recording and what all you're doing with your couch on the Fouch on the couch and oh, now what is this program called?
So this one's called Fouch and Friends, just because it's not on the couch with
Right.
Fouch.
Yeah.
And this fits perfect for this time. I did some probably about 2 to 3 years ago. I did some Fouch and Friends that were just Facebook Live,
Yeah.
and they went over really well. So when this started, I just said, you know what? Let's bring Fouch and Friends back.
Yes.
Let's record them and then put them out there for people just to see their
Sure.
favorite artist during this time while we're all kind of at home and we don't get to go to the concerts. So it's a great way to have fun with the fans.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's fun, and I just sit right here at my studio slash office slash bedroom and do it all right here.
That's right. Well, I do it downstairs in the basement in the kids' play area. I just try to tidy up in the back a little bit and sit down and do it. But it's fun nonetheless. I love getting to hear stories from the artist and getting to know things about them that I didn't know, and I know the fans enjoy that too. So thank you
Sure.
so much, Mark.
God bless you.
Take care.
All right, bye bye.